Welcome to the Podcast of Culture, presented by J.J. Cunningham. This episode will be addressing the colonization of the Americas, more specifically regarding what the region was like before the Columbian Exchange, as well as how the colonization was like for both sides, indigenous peoples and Europeans alike. Before colonization, there were a few advanced societies that covered thousands of miles, each with its own complex governmental structure, religious system, and culture. The three main civilizations we will focus on today are the Inca, Aztec, and Maya peoples. The Incas, originating in the Andes mountain region, built an empire among the mountainous terrain and centralized their government in Cusco, modern-day Peru. Considered one of, if not the most advanced civilization of its time, the empire had an estimated 30 million people in its range, as stated in the Amerindian antiquity. Surprisingly enough, they practiced one of the earliest forms of communism and did much to end hunger in their society. Their emperor was seen as a descendant of the sun god, and the royal succession divided the empire each generation. With that being said, much of their culture is up to interpretation, as much of their written language is currently indecipherable. The next civilization, the Aztecs, constructed a massive empire centralized in what is now Mexico City. Warlike peoples, they had an advanced city reminiscent of modern-day Venice, Italy, with its floating gardens, aqueducts, canals, and one of the largest economic markets in the world. They had their own hierarchical society that was upheld by authoritarian rule, an alliance containing three kingdoms coming together. The last group, the Mayans, are renowned scientists and astronomers. Based in the Yucatan Peninsula in modern-day Mexico, Belize, and Guatemala, the Mayans had a complex writing system comparable to the Chinese, as well as one of the most accurate calendars of its time based on the stars. There was an estimated 3 million people in the empire, many of which used agriculture as a means of life. Slavery was a staple of society, and a large portion of their population took part in some form of forced labor. The colonization of the Americas left both natives and their conquerors in shock. For the indigenous peoples, empires like the Spanish came in on massive ships, riding on horses, which they'd never seen anything like, and with weapon technology that seemed as if it were from another planet. For the Europeans, nothing but the most primitive societies were expected. So when they came upon cities like Tenochtitlan and Cusco, they were beyond shocked. Seeing cities that were comparable to Constantinople and Rome, it was clear that these indigenous peoples were just as, if not more advanced than Europe at the time. With that being said, the exchange of ideas and culture was also the spread of war and disease. Up to half of the native population was wiped out due to diseases, and the ones that survived had to deal with the guns and horses of the Europeans. The conquering of Latin America was ugly and forceful, and the Spanish, as well as the Portuguese and a few other major players, had an everlasting effect on the Western Hemisphere. The legacy left on the area is the mixing of Europeans and indigenous peoples, both as people and cultures. The Spanish language dominates the region, and many who live there identify as mestizo, part European, part indigenous. Despite all of this, the Eurocentric view still remains, as many of those in power are still of lighter skin, while those of darker skin are the most impoverished. The colonialism left an unbreakable effect that only now people are attempting to turn the tides toward the same rights, privileges, and opportunities for all. Thank you.